Is Heath on? God, tell you what, I go away for a couple of weeks because my sunburn, and I come back to this. Look, I'm having to clean up after you boys. The infestation of Sidetrack Sunday, invasion. Oh my God. I blame you, Heath. I blame you. Did I do a good job?
Good morning.
Good morning, all.
Hola.
Oh, damn it, Heath. If you weren't here, the internet would be working fine. Heath, if you're in there somewhere, I blame this on you. The internet has gone AWOL. So, if it cuts out, just go over to Humanity Junction's channel and just spam his channel and shut it down, alright? That's all I have to say.
Couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Jason's just messaged him.
See, this is what I love. Like, no matter what, if Heath is here or not, he will still be told. Anyway,
I'm loving the love, guys. Like, seriously, thanks for welcoming me back.
Yeah, you look a lot better too.
Oh, guys, for anyone who isn't aware, it was Ally's birthday Sunday just gone. She decided not to say anything, so no one went, "Happy birthday, Ally."
Are we gonna sing her happy birthday?
We can.
No.
Actually, no. You know what? Hang on. Container Man Roy, when you get a chance to pull over and we're still live, jump on and sing happy birthday to Ally, and then you can jump off.
Yeah.
That would be the highlight of his day.
Yeah.
Not anybody else's voice, yeah.
Yep.
Love the hat, Shannon.
How's this? It's a bandana.
Well, whatever. It's on your hat.
Actually, hang on. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, so welcome to today's episode of Trackside Live. Today we are talking about wiring your layout for DC and or DCC. My mind's gone completely blank because I'm trying to make sure the internet's dropping out right now. But yeah, so we're just going to go through the basics of how to wire layout and whatnot. Ally, do you want to take over for a minute? I'm just going to go get something.
Just another quick thing to note as well. We are still having technical difficulties with the internet, so if the stream drops out or cuts out or anything like that,
Blame Heath.
hopefully it doesn't. Sorry, what was that, Shannon?
Said blame Heath.
Oh yeah, blame Heath. Another reason to go over to his channel and go harassing.
Yeah, Oh, I like the bandana better.
Yeah, bring the bandana back.
Oh, it's on there. Okay. He looks like Jerry Mathers. He looks like Leave It to Beaver.
Yeah, but here's the thing. It's my overpriced hat.
Yeah.
Snap on.
It's snap on. It's overpriced.
Yep.
Is that better? Now I'm trying to
No, wait a minute. You got to sit like this now. See. Yeah.
Are you difficult?
No. There you go. There you go.
Yo, what's up?
Anyway, so today we're talking about DCC and DC. Now, I know Claude is doing DCC, Steve is doing DC, and Ali is doing a bit of both.
Nothing.
DCC.
What, doesn't your club layout do DC and DCC?
They do both, yes. But
So you're a little bit of both.
DCC. Okay, fine. Put me down as both.
Okay.
Listen, you could get this way. You're there.
Yeah, I'm there.
Claude's there. And Ally's there.
No, other way.
I'm right here.
That's the other way? You're that way?
No. Ali's the other way.
Shannon's there, Claude's there, and Steve's there.
Oh, God. I don't know where I am anyway, so it doesn't matter.
You're in the middle of the fry pan, and it's not getting hot yet.
Okay.
Oh, boy, you got that right.
So where are you starting? Steve, you going to start with DC?
Yeah, that's probably the best thing to do. So let's embarrass Steve and let's make him big.
DC? Yeah, don't do DC. Go DCC.
Wiring is
Don't do DC.
That was the easy part.
How about that?
Oh, God, I was not expecting that.
Don't do this.
You can start saying, don't do this.
Don't do this.
how not to do things.
Yeah, and you're switching over turnouts. Claude says, cut them for DCC because it might do DCC in the future. So now everything's gapped and nothing works.
That's because you don't have it wired yet.
Yeah, I've been
You'll be glad you did, though.
So no, yeah, go DCC, don't do DC. That's my contribution.
Well, I've done both. I used to have a DC layout before DCC ever came along, and I hated it, actually, how it worked. The DCC does all the stuff I wanted to have on my old layout, the sound, being able to run more than one train at a time, that kind of thing. So, it's a little bit of a learning curve, but it's actually, I think it's a lot easier to wire than block control for DC.
Well, see, I'm old school. That's all I ever knew. My dad taught me DC, wiring blocks, and it's like being a dispatcher. And that's all I knew. So that's how
Okay, I think, actually, in saying that, I've probably got a pretty good way of explaining the difficulties between DC and DCC. So let me just set this up quickly. So, for those who do DC, right, and, want to keep it simple, this is what the inside of your loco is going to look like. Very basic, next to no wires.
Power goes to motor. Motor goes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you have it short, you did it wrong.
Yep. So DC, is really, it's really easy when you're buying locomotives. You don't have to do much to them in regards to maintenance or anything like that. You basically just put the loco on the rails and off you go. So that's that. You want to go to DCC. Now, mind you, this is the same chassis. Look at all that wiring, 2 plugs, capacitors, isolated motor. Looks like a bit of a spaghetti nest. Now I've got to figure out which one's which now.
Well, you better be good at everything too. If you're gonna do
that. Yeah, so basically, if you do go to DCC, this is the kind of stuff you'll have to start doing. Wiring plugs and wiring bits and pieces in and trying to do things and test it, get it to work and whatnot. Like at the moment, I'm doing this for someone in the States, so he's quite happy with how it's all coming along so far. His name's Terry, so Terry, if you're watching, you know, your locos will be done fairly shortly once the Dakotas get here. But otherwise, that one's tested, the other one's going to go under the knife soon, and we'll go from there. But in saying that, yeah, so with DCC, you know, it is simple if you're just doing a single loop of track. You know, got a power supply, 2 wires, track, and that's it. That's the simplicity. Yeah. When you start to expand, to like where Steve, this is so hard trying to figure out which angle. Steve?
Yeah.
Where Steve has, how many main lines do you have, Steve?
I got 2.
2 main lines. How many locos do you usually run?
How many what?
Locomotives do you usually run?
I like to run a lot. I usually like 4 or 5, as many as I can before they don't run.
How long does it take you to actually get them running properly without collision?
2 years. That's how.
But you're talking about 4 in consist.
Yeah. Well, it's
all run the same direction. In the same block in the same direction. Yeah.
Well, and my problem is speed matching too, because I can't, DC, you can't speed match. So I got to find locomotives that'll run together. You get one that'll run fast and one that'll run slow, so they don't run good together. So that's my biggest problem is trying to get stuff that'll run decently together, because you can't speed match DC.
Oh, yeah, that's one of the nice things about DCC is you can play with the CVs and speed match them and get them running a lot better together.
Yeah.
And then when you go and you uncouple consist, then you can take the locos in opposite direction on the same piece of track. You can't do that in DC.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in regards to wiring DC layout to be able to do a lot, I know the last layout before my current layout I had as DC. And I had switches everywhere. I think my layout was split up into 6 blocks. Each block had 1 switch for controller 1, controller 2. Had at least another 2 switches for basically smaller blocks, so I could stop a loco in that section. It also had a 3rd switch, so if I was only running 1 controller, I could change the direction on the line there. So, you put that over 6 blocks, that's about 24 different switches just to run a train, over 6 blocks. Whereas with DCC, it's just 1 controller, that's it. Nice and easy, nice and simple.
It's just 2 wires.
I've got 12 blocks on this, just on this little mess.
Yeah. And I've got 2 blocks on mine. As big as mine is, I've only got mine separated into 2 separate sections. I've got the lower section and the upper section, and that's I'm keeping it fairly simple. I could break it up a lot more than that for power districts on the DCC, but I really don't need it because I'm never going to have 10 people in there running trains at the same time. So for me, I can keep it a lot more simple. So I can chase stuff down a little easier.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can make it, this is the nice thing about DCC is you've got the Arduinos and all that kind of stuff that you can really do a lot of different things that you can't do with DC, or you can't do as easily with DC. Most of the DC stuff, you have to have separate mechanical stuff for it, like animations off the layout or off of the track itself. You have to have all that separated. But you don't have to do that with DCC. You can run off track power and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty neat. I like it a lot. It is more expensive, but if you're just starting out,
that's the best time.
I think that's the best time to get into it because you can get in not much more than what it's going to cost you to get into DC, and you'll be glad you did down the road.
Yeah, exactly. So if you in regards to today's topic, if you are just starting out, if you actually add up all the costs for switches, copper wiring, labour, and all that, you'll be pretty, neck and neck between DC and DCC on startup costs. In saying that, the other thing as well, which is the main reason we have this topic today, is doing the wiring of DC and DCC. Which doing the wiring is actually quite simple. Like, if you want to see a really good and simple example of how to wire a layout, you can talk to Heath from Humanity Junction. He's all the way in chat over there. He's currently, he's just done some videos in regards to wiring for his layout. But it's basically between DC and DCC, it's basically the same concept. Obviously you got your power supply, you got the 2 bus wires.
Shannon,
yes?
I would probably disagree with that in part, because when it comes to DCC, and this is the best way that it was explained to me, was with DC, you're driving the track. So you're just adjusting the power in the track. Whereas with DCC, you have a constantly powered track. So you're actually driving the locomotive through signals through the track. And that's why your wiring can actually be fairly simple with DCC, because all you really need is your bus wires and your droppers.
Yeah, but that's what I was trying to get into. I haven't gotten into just that yet, Ali. You kind of jumped the gun there.
Oh, did I? Sorry. You were saying they were the same, and I said, no, what are you doing?
No, I said wiring. Wiring is the same.
No, you don't need to put so much wiring into a DCC layout.
No, you put almost just as much.
It's 2 wires and a lot of droppers. That's it.
Can I keep going?
Yeah. You go your bus wires to your transformer, and then you have all your dropper wires from each rail.
But she's not including the drops. The drops from
Okay, Steve, Claude, who has the round 1, round 2 squares?
Ding, ding, ding.
Guys, obviously there's a boxing match happening between the same country.
I'm trying to make it simple. That's what DCC
is. I'm trying to make it simple, in my opinion, and you're just jumping into the same fence.
You're trying to throw them all off by saying,
I'm not throwing them.
You don't. You're scaring people.
I'm not scaring people.
You're scaring us.
Oh, I'm scaring you. Sorry, Steve.
No, Shannon is.
Anyway,
like that, I would be scared too.
Yeah. No, what I was trying to say is, like when you're wiring them, you got your power supply, your bus wires, right? Because you're going to have bus wires from the transformer or your power supply to the layout.
Yes.
Right? Now, depending on how the layout works, right, on a DC layout, you're going to have bus wires running into the control panel, like what Steve has. Correct? Then from the control panel, you'll then have wiring going from the control panel to the switches, to the certain sections of track, to what you were saying in regards to controlling the track.
And
no, you're making it too complex.
Make sure you mark your wires.
What he's saying is true, Ali. You've got to take your power on DC to your control panel, not to your track. It goes to the control panel and all of the controls on your control panel, and then it goes to the track.
That's DC.
That's what he's talking about.
I can see everyone today. I can see everyone today is going to be like, I'm just going to watch this just to watch the rematch.
That's right.
So anyway, so we've got that. So power, bus wires, control panel, track. That's DC. Now,
No, that's
DCC or digital, it's a little bit different. You go from power supply to bus wires, right? Now, depending how you wire up your layout, whether you're going to have power districts or not. If it's going to have power districts, you might have it go to a tiny control panel that's like got District 1, District 2, District 3, 4 and 5. And then from there, it goes straight to the track. Okay? But if you're not using power districts, just to keep it simple, it's power supply, track.
Bus, track.
Yeah, power supply, bus, track. Now, in between the bus is obviously where the control panel, your controller sits, which controls it all.
No, controller goes to your transformer.
You take over. You screwed with me too much already.
If you've got a
watch this.
around,
No, just what, because now my mind is so muddled. Hang on, my mind is so muddled. Watch this. Boom, boom. There we go.
Oh, we scared him away. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, you broke me. You broke me. I was trying to go down this path, and now my mind is all mixed up because of this discussion going haywire.
This is scary. Can't see you. That's frightening.
Have you actually been watching chat? Everyone's rooting for me.
Yeah.
Like cat fight. Yeah, see, look, we've confused everybody now. Look at poor Bernard C. He's clear as mud.
Because you jumped in!
Oh my God.
I don't know if it's because of the internet connection I dropped out and you didn't hear what I said.
Well, Steve Anderson says now the show's going to get better. So is that because you're gone?
Everyone forgets who actually is supporting the show electronically.
Shannon Anonymous, I haven't hurt your feelings, have I?
No, you have literally scrambled my brain. I can not comprehend what I'm trying to explain anymore.
Shannon's just thrown all the toys out of the cot and he's just not participating.
Man.
No, literally, I was going through this process in my head, and then you jumped in, and now I lost my place, and my brain is just trying to find the start.
So what's different between now and any other time?
Steve, you're not helping.
This show's gone out the window.
Get back on track.
Yeah, see, don't give me drugs. So don't give me drugs.
Oh.
Okay.
Come back,
Okay, shall I try and start this again?
Yeah.
Come back.
Yeah, Bill, it's business as usual.
Shall I start again?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start from the start. Wiring DC and DCC. Wiring DC and DCC. We hear it clear? Okay, let me make it easy. Wiring analog and digital is very, very similar. Okay, with a couple of slight differences. The main components is you've got a power supply, a bus wire, and then depending on whether it's analog you got the control panel before the track. If it's digital, you just got bus wire, track. That's it. Otherwise, the I don't know the word now. Duh. The idea is similar. Okay? Now, on DC, as Steve will show his control panel, because he's running DC, that's a lot of switches.
And a lot of wires.
Yeah, we don't want to see the rat's nest.
You don't want to see the rat's nest.
Okay, there is a lot. So there is going to be a lot of wiring. There is going to be a lot of wires crisscrossing, going from one spot to the next.
And a lot of wires. You don't know where they go.
Yeah. So that's analog. That's the concept with analog. You've got the control panel. The power supply, bus wire, control panel. Right. On DC, the power supply on DCC or digital sends a signal through the bus wire to the track. The controller connects to the power supply to send said signals through the bus wire. That's what I was trying to say before.
Hang on, I'm drawing a diagram for the people in chat because they're all confused.
I think all the people in chat are a lot smarter than we are, and they already understand what we're trying to say.
This is why I'm drawing a diagram now. I should have started this earlier.
Oh God, my mind is scrambled right now. My mind is scrambled.
Just make sure if you're DC, mark your wires. Mark your wires.
Oh Jesus Christ!
Go to bed, Shannon.
Well, somebody asked what color wires you should use. In my opinion, it doesn't really matter as long as you know what the wires go to, and you stay consistent through the whole layout. You can use black and yellow, black and white, red and white, blue and white. Doesn't really matter. Any combination of those, it doesn't matter as long as you stay consistent in it and you know which one.
Don't change in midstream.
Don't change wire in the middle of it because that'll just confuse you.
If anything, if you are doing digital, probably the best thing to do is obviously have the idea of how you want to wire it, but before you do start wiring it, look up videos of electrical engineers or electricians wiring up skyscrapers or large buildings. That's what you want to aim for. Okay? I've seen it done. Makes life so much easier. There's videos out there. Ali?
Yes?
If I was a car right now, my head gasket has blown to smithereens right now. I am running on one cylinder, and my mind is just clunk, 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 clunk.
We never would have known.
Steve, hang on. Let me try something.
Well, on the subject of wire color, I use black and white for my bus wire. Then I use red and white for my drops that go to basically a breakout board off of the bus wire. Then I use blue and black for my turnout controls, and I use green for the frogs on the turnout controls.
Well, Fred Wobb, he said use as many colors as you can. It's easier
well,
to
the whole thing, my whole point is know what your colors are for.
Right.
And I know what my colors are for. Somebody else coming in and looking at it may not, but then that would be on anybody's layout. They wouldn't know if you put white on the inside rail and red on the outside rail or vice versa unless they traced it down first. Just by looking at the color isn't going to do it. But if you know what the color goes to, that's what's important.
You reckon I weigh 107 pounds? Bernard C. 107.5 pounds.
Ali.
You weigh 107?
Ali. Kilograms multiplied by 2.2 equals pounds.
Hang on. I'm not good with math. I'm good with spelling, not with math.
You need a whiteboard.
Yep. I can't do it in my head.
Yeah, there's plenty of people out there who've done diagrams on it, but DCC is a much easier wiring system, depending on what you're doing.
It was times 2.2.
What are we doing now?
Is that supposed to be kilos?
No, so kilograms multiplied by 2.2 equals pounds.
Oh, hang on. That's why I got it wrong. I was going to say, I don't weigh that much.
Oh, now we're talking about your weight?
Yeah, I was going to say, we're back on track. I mean, I put you guys on a timeout.
Yeah, rein it in. Hey, I thought, hey, Heath, keep these clowns on track, would you?
Really?
Can you actually see the diagram that I put up?
Yes.
There you go. Simple. Why are you laughing, Shannon?
Because this show...
Shannon hadn't had enough sleep, I don't think.
He's having a breakdown.
Yes, I'm breaking down. Okay.
Well, that's the problem. I don't think Shannon ever sleeps. He messages me all the time, all different times of the day, and it's like, when the hell do you sleep, dude?
Oh, my goodness. We've been on 45 minutes, and
I agree, Sean.
Yeah,
sideways
we did.
Really quick.
That's true, Bill. It's not possible. Keep them on track.
Mm-mm.
I'm just going through the chat now. I'm trying to catch up.
Okay.
Yeah,
This-
Shannon, where's our intermission? Marty's asked the same question. I was wondering. Where's our
Okay,
intermission?
here's our intermission. This is our show right now.
Yeah, right there. That's it.
That's our show today.
Yep, I agree.
Right off the edge.
You know that was done with a model?
Although I think
Yeah, I know.
that looks better than what we're doing.
That whole thing was filmed as a model.
That was it.
So that's technically still on track.
Scale.
So that's today's show. That's today's show. So
Nice locomotive. Right?
Yeah, that's today's show, all right.
We still got half an hour to catch up.
well, my mind has completely gone offline.
Well, wait a minute. Now I want to ask: does anybody in chat have a question? I don't know that anybody's got any questions other than why aren't we locked up in a crazy home somewhere? But does anybody have any questions on DCC or DC wiring?
Yeah, don't ask us.
Besides wire color. Now maybe we can answer some questions or attempt to. I don't know if Shannon can do anything other than close his eyes, go to sleep.
You know, that's a good idea, Bill. Shannon, that needs to be the opening for trackside beams.
What?
I agree.
Yeah.
The train wreck.
Yeah, I'll do it as long as we don't get caught up with
it was a
copyrights.
corner scale.
Okay, Heath has a good question. Well, why is it always hard to talk about wiring? What can be done to make it simple?
I think people.
I think the simplest way is to have one person on the show and not four.
Okay, the easiest way to answer that question is wiring is never simple because everyone gets their information from different sources. And every source is always going to be different. But if I was to tell anyone who's starting in the hobby, go speak to an electronic or electrical engineer or an electrician on how to properly wire anything. Because they have been trained to wire things beautifully. And make sure they're not a major.
Sean McGee asked, back on track, do I dare ask about decoders? And Sean, before we answer that, aren't you glad you came back to see the show? Shannon's been doing a lot of decoders lately.
Ron.
Yeah.
Can you answer that?
Yeah, so what do you want to know about decoders, Sean? Because I can tell you information about ESU, Digitrax, NCE, Lens, CT Electronic. What's the other brand I deal with? Zimo. I think I've nearly named every decoder that's bloody on the NMRA sheet. Tsunami. What do you want to know?
Digitrax?
Yeah, I said Digitrax.
Oh, did you? You missed it.
Well, Sean also said if political debates were this entertaining, more people might get out and vote. That's true. That might help. Who was it? Oh, Bernard asked. He says, "Think my problem's going to be with old switches and frogs." I can answer that one, Bernard, because I actually was trying to modifying some switches that were DC switches to DCC, and there's a way to do it, but I found for me the best way was going to be, because I needed so many, was going to be just build my own turnouts and wire them as I went, which did turn out to be much easier to do. It can be done. There are some videos out there that show how to do that, but you have to run jumper wires, you have to put your gaps in them, stuff like that. But I found that having built my own turnouts with live frogs, powered frogs, trains run much better with that than they ever did over, say, the old Atlas or any other turnout that had an insulated frog for DC power. So,
well, and see, that's what I would be doing with the turnout.
Exactly. Steve was having the same problem, and I told him, I said, you start off and just, even though you're a DC, power the frog with the throw that you're using, and it'll make it so much easier for you down the road. If he ever switches over, he's already going to be there. So I use Tortoise turnout machines, which have the switches in them for powering the frog, but it is possible to take a DC turnout and make it DCC, and it's more than what we can show you on this show for sure. And I don't know that I'd ever do it on my channel because I don't do that anymore. But there are some people out there that have done it on YouTube, and that's how I learned how to do it.
Yeah.
Was to watch those and see how to do it. But you do have to run some jumpers and make sure you get your gaps right.
Okay. Now back to Sean McGee, because he's now come up with a bit more information on his question. So he's asking, what would be your go-to decoder for an ease of install in N-scale? My best answer to that is basically it all depends on the locomotive. A lot of diesel engines have drop-in decoders available for them right now, which is basically very simple. You open the shell up, take out the DC board, put the DCC board in, put it back together, off you go. If you're doing sound, again, you can buy some drop-in decoders available for the diesel locomotives, but you might have to modify the chassis a little bit to be able to fit a speaker. If you want to go down the track of like massive modifications when installing decoders, where you use for example, I use a lot of ESU Locksound V5s and V4s micros, which does require some modification, but again, that depends on your skill level and whatnot, putting them in. But yeah, just to take a step back, basically, easy thing to do is double check. If you have a GP40, just look up GP40 drop-in decoder, N-scale. And whatever pops up, if you just after a basic decoder, NCE, Digitrax, they're pretty much on par. ESU do them as well, but they're a bit pricey sometimes. If you're going to go for sound, I always recommend ESU if you're on a bit of a budget. Digitrax do some budget sound decoders. Tsunami sound is a bit better, but then you also got TCS. TCS do some good sound decoders, which I think are drop in as well. It just all depends on what locomotive it is, what you're trying to achieve, what you want to get out of it, and go from there. Otherwise, a simpler answer for that is basically what brand would suit X brand loco.
What scale is Sean McGee modelling in?
He did say N scale.
Oh, he did he? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going back through the chat again. There's a lot of topics in here we're missing, like...
Here we got Wilmer.
Sorry? What'd you say, Steve?
Good morning, Uncle Wilmer.
Oh, Wilmer's in. Hello.
Saying good morning to Wilmer. Welcome.
Hey,
Well,
Wilmer.
you're going to have to go back and watch the replay because you missed the bulk of the show.
Probably a good thing. There's a couple of questions here. Chuck throws in.
Yeah.
Is it better to solder to bus line or use connectors? Steve wants to talk about circuit breakers. Who else?
One at a time. What was the first one now?
I'm just throwing out the questions here just quickly. Container Man asked about reversing switches.
I'm using AR1s on mine.
I think that's all the questions.
That was the other nice thing about DCC was the auto reversers versus DC. Excuse me. I found a guy who was actually in Australia or New Zealand. Can't remember. Shannon knows who I'm talking about. But he did a really good video on the AR1 reversers because he was having a problem and he figured out how to solve that problem. And I followed what he did and didn't have any problem at all. And if I can do it, anybody can do it because I'm not a wiring expert by any means.
In reverse.
Yeah, they are. And you got to be on top of them when you get ready to throw it and all that kind of stuff. It's just, yeah. I never liked the reversing sections on a DC layout. It was always a pain in the butt. What else did you ask, Ally?
Just trying to go back to now so I can find them again. Chuck asked a question about, is it better to solder to bus line or use connectors? Now, personally, I would avoid connectors because any connectors is going to cause resistance in your...
Oh, Shannon. Oh, come on.
Well, I started talking. That's what Shannon's drinking now.
I've clocked off.
But on that note, Ally, I use what everybody calls suitcase connector from the bus line to my little terminal board that I run my drops to, and then I run my drops, and they're all a screw drop. Stick the wire in and tighten the screw up on it. Works real well for me. People solder it. It's all about what you're comfortable with, as far as I'm concerned. I've heard people say that suitcase connectors can be a problem, and yeah, I've had a problem putting them on, but once you get them on properly, they seem to work just fine for me. I've not had a bit of problem with mine.
The problem with suitcase connectors is no matter what, doesn't matter where in the world you live, the small amounts of moisture in the air, whether in a very humid area or a very dry-ish area, over time, the humidity does actually corrode the surface because it's not a coated surface, and that's where the problems arise. Like, I've seen layouts that are 30 years old with suitcase connectors, and literally the layouts don't run because, the layout's been stored away in a nice dry place, it's covered in dust, you name it, but the moisture in the air had corroded the suitcase connectors to the point they were pretty much useless. So, so with that, in my opinion, is solder them. If you don't want to, solder them and then unsolder them because you have to move it or whatever, you can get things like what Heath has. Is using, I can't remember the name of the plugs, but he's using these really special plugs which are a really nice tight fit. Basically, any plug that has a silver coating or a gold coating on the actual part that actually contacts the other contact. Because gold doesn't really corrode, and silver, same thing, doesn't really corrode either. Very easy to clean, that'd be my way to go. Otherwise, yeah, just solder it straight to the bus wire. Or even use terminal connectors, with the screw blocks. Just use those. I've seen people literally just use positive, negative, has 12 rows of screws, and then they wire all their track off that.
Yeah, that's also a good way to main thing is if you solder them, make sure you're using rosin core solder and you clean the rosin off, the flux off after you solder it before you wrap it. Because the rosin core or acid core, whatever you use, is going to corrode the wire over time.
Yeah.
So always clean it off.
Next question.
They're all talking about AR1s in here at the moment.
Yeah, I have no idea about reversing loops because I haven't had a first-hand experience on them yet.
Nightbot's talking about trackside beams.
That tube of super glue starts to look very friendly to me.
Don't do it, Shannon. Don't do it.
You're supposed to share. You're not supposed to.
Yeah, you want some, Steve?
Oh, I couldn't. I'm on drugs. I can't drink.
You know why they say don't drink when you're on drugs?
Besides, it's too early in the morning. That's right.
Actually, it is. It's only been 47 minutes into this day, and I'm drinking already.
You've been asleep all day, Shannon.
It's also Sunday for you, too.
Actually, no, I did have a nap today.
Chuck, you're asking Steve 87, what about the track? You're talking about soldering the wires to the track, I'm assuming. Clean it off after you solder it. Clean the flux off as best you can. And then when you paint the track, if you're not going to paint the track, I would suggest putting something clear over it to help keep the moisture off of it. But I just paint my rail afterwards. So the paint's going to keep it from wanting to corrode. That'll be your protection from the air.
Yeah, nickel silver corrodes very quickly. If you get brand new flex track, you just have to leave it out for a week. After a week, the moisture attacks the surface of it and you have to clean it. That's why people always say, keep your track work clean. But, in saying that as well, running trains constantly on your track work keeps it clean as well. Because, the way electricity works is if there is a bit of a dirty spot, the actual spark actually cleans it off. It's not a spark that will affect anything or that you'll see or hear, but the tiny, tiny, tiny bits of sparking that happens as the train runs is it literally zapping off the tiny, tiny bits of corrosion that is building up on the track.
Hello, Mike from Cross Anchors.
Mike, I might need to hit your liquor cabinet at some point.
Yeah, one of the things with soldering to track as well is if you score up the surface a little bit, get rid of some of that coating on it, it'll help make the solder stick better as well, especially before painting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can, Micromark sells a little scratch brush that's perfect for that. It's a little copper wire brush, very small, like a paintbrush, and it works good for scratching the sides of the rail before you solder it on. But the biggest thing is to get the flux off after you solder it. That's the key thing to do. Get the flux off of it.
And these are little things you learn, like what Claude was saying.
Shannon,
Oh, sorry, Steve. What were you saying?
Shannon. Let's just say Roy Hardwick wants to know how many bottles of the showstopper you're going to be drinking during the show.
I'll probably just drink this one because I still have kids to look after in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Just he was wondering.
I'm driven to the alcohol.
No, literally. See, the bad thing, Ali, is when you get my mind to that point, haywire, I have to slow it down or I don't comprehend anything.
And alcohol helps.
Alcohol's a depressant.
That's a fair point.
Not saying it's healthy, but it does slow things down.
And what I was saying
Does it help with knees?
Actually, sorry to interrupt you, Ali. Bernard, your question is anyone going with Arduino layout? I'm going to give that a try. Look up... Oh, no, I've forgotten his name. I was just talking to him today. Well, not talking to him, I joined onto his server. Hang on. Wait. Excuse me.
Oh, gross.
That's my engine's firing up again.
That's all we needed to do, Shannon. We needed to give you a reboot.
Okay, so you need... DCC++ EX, because DCC++, the main thing about that things, and look up
Lose Claude. What happened?
I had a phone call.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you hate that?
People call me on Saturday. I don't know what's wrong with the world.
So since today was such a disaster, what does everyone do next week? Do we want to try this again next week, or do we want to...
This is a very big topic.
Another disaster?
Do we want to go for round 2?
Yeah, we could do the same topic next week if you want to.
Yeah. Actually, Heath, get your rear end up here. Come on, Heath. Come here.
You're welcome, Roy, but I don't know why you're saying thank you.
Pictures next time. Heath wants pictures next time.
Anything. I don't blame you.
I don't know if any of us know how to draw.
Joe, you need to
I know how to draw. I'm currently doing this for cross bankers at the moment. That's a draft. I've still got to get paper and other bits and pieces to do the proper copy. No, he come up here now. Come here now, because we need someone who hasn't been tainted by today's BS.
You need a whiteboard.
Heath, I'm married. I can't draw on the walls.
Actually,
He knows what's true.
I don't have a whiteboard. I kind of have like a fluoro blackboard. I've got a fluoro blackboard.
Here I can use.
But mine has pretty colours.
Oh, you got a whiteboard. Okay. Yeah, you don't need to pull it out now.
a bit late now.
I bet Shannon was always grabbing for the candy rack as his mom was trying to drag him out of the store. Am I wrong, Shannon?
No, Train Freak. I've just cleaned up from the last invasion.
Oh, speak of the devil, there he is.
You guys are so downhill right now. I don't think I can save this.
Well, Heath, if you saw the start of the show or the heated discussion that happened near the start, then you'd understand.
Oh, see, I completely missed the start.
Oh, you got to rewatch it, man. It was a total train wreck.
Watch the start. You will have a laugh.
Yep.
It's interesting that this is coming up because part of what I want to do on my next live stream was talk about why people hate wiring so much and what can we do as a community to kind of make it easier to understand, to sort of spread the information to other people. So it's kind of interesting seeing how difficult it is just to explain the basics of DCC and DC over the internet.
Well, I think the biggest problem is there's so many different ways you can wire a layout. And I think the biggest thing people need to do when one of them is how much space do you have? You know, what do you want to try and put in that space? The other is what scale are you going to use? And then pick a power system. You know, you got power to run the thing. So pick out what you're going to do and just look for that stuff. Don't try to look at everything else and take bits and pieces because you get confusion. There's so much out there. You know, it's like I picked DCC. I'm not going to do Arduino. I'm not going to do Wi-Fi. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'm keeping mine very simple because I'm too old to go through all that crap. You know, and I want to concentrate on my layout and not have to worry about how I'm going to wire it. And so I found a simple way of doing it, and I think that's what you got to do. I mean, to me, that's the basic way to do it. It'll keep it much simpler for you, and you're not in 10 different directions.
Yeah, so, but I reckon Heath literally has hit the nail on the head in regards to... Hello.
What's he yakking about?
There's two people talking.
Well, we can't hear him. Shannon's making too much noise again.
Well, that'd be the first time anybody said they couldn't hear me.
Nobody can hear anything. No, I can't hear anything.
I think it's interesting because I mean, you look at the big channels, the big sort of model railroading channels, and can we just ignore Shannon for a bit? You look at the big model railroading channels, like let's say like Luke Callan and Kathy Millett, and all these channels focus so much on. And then doing wiring and stuff. And you look at they're not doing it kind of as consistently as the scenery stuff is being done. So Claude, I think what you're saying is valid, like pick something and stick to it. Mm-hmm. But I also think there's a certain reality of it that you need to understand the fundamentals, and then a lot of the other stuff will fall into place.
Sure.
Whereas I think if you're just like people always ask, like Digitrax or NCE, and while that's an important question to ask, you kind of got to take a step back and say, well, what are you trying to accomplish? Mm-hmm. You know, and then we can figure out what you need based on what you're trying to accomplish. So, you know, you say NCE Digital and everybody's got an answer, but we have no idea what the question actually is.
Yes, with what you're saying there, Heath.
Most people with NCE that is not relatively easy to use. It does a lot more than I'll ever use. So I may be made the wrong choice. I think you're right in that. I may not have done enough research for myself on that, but I'm happy with what I've got. And I just got the new throttle, and I know you've been working with that some. So I've been kind of watching that and watching the boards on that kind of thing. But I don't worry about what NCE is doing because I don't have that. So
actually,
I definitely don't want to go, oh, God, I wish I'd have done that and start second thinking myself on what I've already chosen to do. Because if I was going to do that, I'd have to scrap everything and just start over.
Actually, in saying that, I found out today, ESU actually have a I guess for layman's terms at the moment, it's like a converter where you can use other branded DCC controllers to connect to ECOS, which is the ESU decoder system. So basically you can plug in anything that is able to run LocoNet or any of the other systems that ESU, this box can do, it'll connect to and function.
But Shannon, I think that's what Heath and I were talking about, was that gets kind of confusing to people that are new.
Yeah.
That's something that once you get established in what you're using, you can start looking into that if that's what interests you.
Yeah, but I'm just saying
that can be really confusing when you start mixing stuff up like that. Not that it can't be done, but it can be very confusing.
Yeah.
It can be confusing, Claude, but I think that's because we're looking at it on a manufacturer level.
Sure.
Because of the NMRA, it's all DCC compliant.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't really have to stick to a manufacturer. And people, I think, get a little confused between, like, my command station is NCE, so I can't then use a Digitrax switch machine. Well, no, you can, because they both speak DCC.
They both speak the same language.
Right. So it's easy to say, oh, just stick to NCE or just stick to Digitrax because then you're all in one manufacturer and it'll all work together. But the reality is it's all NMRA compliant, so it should all work together even if you're outside of that, which then gets you into what you're talking about. Then how do you get the information you need? And I think it's that we're asking the wrong question.
Yeah. So in saying that, because it's actually the end of the show, in that case, we'll try again next week.
Yeah, this got interesting here at the end, so we might need to do that next week.
Yeah, so we'll start again next week. We'll start fresh. I hope everyone loved the entertainment at the start.
Sorry, Shannon.
My mind has just gone blank.
I think that was our problem today.
Yeah. I think we need a mute button for Shannon next week.
Yeah, I think we need a mute button for him there.
No, I think it's more the fact that if you think of me as an engine just running and Ally's just come across as like, oh, a spanner! Ding!
I'm not that bad, am I?
I don't know, Shannon. I think you threw a wrench into yourself on this one.
Yeah.
Well, he was like a train. You just, once he starts, you don't stop him halfway through.
That's true, too.
It's like, you get on a roll, you don't stop a train, suddenly. You've got to let it roll out.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's the thing, because you misheard me when I said, you thought I said DC and DCC are the same when I said wiring it is kind of the same. And you're like, no, they're completely different.
I would never wire them the same.
See, that's where you and me are different, because I wired my DC... Yeah, I wired my DC layout like I was wiring DCC.
Yeah, Roy, that's the problem. We have no control over the show, Roy. Shannon does, so we can't shut him up.
Yeah.
We're stuck with him like this.
Yeah, he's got it. But I think what we were talking about right there at the end is it would be a good place to pick up next week.
Yeah.
Heath made some
Heath come back on next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, Heath can jump back on, and I'll just stay out because if this happens to me again, I'm gonna go MIA.
We'll definitely have to have Heath next week then.
Well, don't do that. Yes.
It looks like Heath is getting his wish though. Sidetrack Sundays is taking over.
Hey, you got to go where the information is, and if you can't get it from back on track, you may have to go to Sidetrack Sunday.
Oh!
One thing you can always count on here though is getting a chuckle or two in.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll end the show there. We'll try and start this again. Try and be a bit more prepared. Only God knows what happened today.
Chuck reckons we need to fix your CVs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe you need some more sleep, and you need to not stay up till 5 a.m. on trackside beans anymore.
Yeah.
Actually, what time did I go to bed last night?
We're doing 5-hour beans.
Yeah,
Well,
I
you
don't know.
ended trackside beans, and then we talked for like another half hour, 45 minutes until your internet died, which I think was like 5 a.m. your time.
Yeah, I got to sleep at 5:30.
I bailed before that.
Yeah. Oh, and Heath, my package was around the corner from you.
What package is around the corner from me?
My T1.
Your T1. Does anyone understand what Shannon's saying? Allie, can you translate?
Rarely do we understand what he's saying.
Heath,
He's talking about a loco.
Heath, we were talking about this the other day, how I ordered a T1 from Train World, and you're like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was at the Brooklyn store.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm like, Janet. So.
I speak Shannon.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we'll start this again next week. We'll try again next week.
We need to wrap it up, Shannon.
Everyone say their byes because I'm just going to go bye-bye and then shut the stream down.
Shannon.
Bye all.
Tell everybody goodbye, Shannon.
Bye. Thanks for coming on.
See you later.
Hanging out.
Oh, heaven help us.
Okay, we're off.